This is the Harry Loomis Show.
What a way to get back out of the Olympic break. We are back on the Harry Loomis Show after the first race back from the 2 weeks off at Richmond. And I don't think I've ever been more furious at the ending of a NASCAR Cup Series race in my career. For those that don't know, Austin Dillon, who came into this race 32nd in points, ended up winning the race. He had the race won before caution with 2 laps to go. And by the way, I still would have been making this video had Dillon won without the last caution. But on the restart, he lost the lead to Joey Logano. Coming into the final turn, he straight up dives in, dumps Joey Logano. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Denny Hamlin goes by. He comes back down, hits Hamlin in the right rear, sends him up the track, and ends up winning the race. So Austin Dillon, after all of that, after the terrible season that he's had, gets into the playoffs from 32nd like that. Which, by the way, we're going to talk about a couple different things in this video. I've, for the longest time, been a hater of the NASCAR playoff format as it is. I made an article on my website last year after Ryan Blaney won the championship. This is the biggest, most egregious example of why this format shouldn't work, why it shouldn't be in place. You get bad champions, that's fine. Ryan Blaney didn't deserve to win the championship last year over guys like Hamlin and Byron, but he did, and he was pretty good all year. That's fine. But you have a guy in Austin Dillon who, they were saying it, hasn't even had a top 5 finish since April of 2023. It was Easter Sunday last year, the Bristol dirt race that Christopher Bell won. That was his last top 5 in the Cup Series. He has not had a good 2 years. He's had a terrible 2 years. While Kyle Busch won 3 races last year, he was 30-something in points. This year, Busch is struggling. He's still 32nd in points. And the one race where he runs well, he makes a complete mockery of the Cup Series, of the sport, of the playoff format, and he gets rewarded with a playoff spot now over a guy like Chris Buescher, who's been pretty consistent all year, lost a race at Kansas by 1,000th of a second, and lost a race at Darlington the next week because he got run into for no reason by Tyler Reddick. Reddick just straight up dove up the track, took both of them out, cost him a win, ended up finishing 30th. Now he's out of the playoffs because of that. That is the most bogus race win I've ever seen since the last one I can remember is Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in 2017 when Austin Cindric needed a win to get into the playoffs last lap on a slow turn, right turn. He straight up makes up about 6 car lengths and flat out dumps Kaz Grala, drives off to win the race. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He dumped him. It was garbage, but it's the Truck Series. You can live with that. This is the Cup Series. This is the first race back after 2 weeks off, and I feel like we're not as outraged as we should be. This is exactly what the playoff system asks for, is for these egregious BS finishes. You finish second, that's fine. You should be completely okay with that. If there's no playoff format, Austin Dillon isn't making that move. If it's a regular season format, if there's even a top 10, top 12, even if there's a wild card format like we had in 2011 through 2013, Austin Dillon's not doing that. His season's done. A win isn't going to save him. He's not going to make a complete ass of himself for a win that's not going to get him any further in the playoffs. He's been in this sport for too long, and he's tried too long to make a good reputation of himself to do something like that. But here, it doesn't matter. He's going to go for it, and you saw Jeff Gluck's tweet. His crew chief was on the radio saying, I don't care how you do it. You got to get to Logano. And then after he got Logano, Hamlin came by and passed him. And he said, wreck him. Hit him in the right rear, sent him up the wall, ended up winning the race. Logano was obviously furious about it afterwards, called it a chicken-ass move, everything that you would expect to hear from a guy that should have won the race and got dumped for no reason. Here's the thing. Logano, obviously, he's got skeletons in his closet. I know as well as anybody my favorite driver growing up was Matt Kenseth, and Logano, arguably his most notable run-in was Matt Kenseth in 2015 at Kansas. He spun Kenseth out. Logano was already into the next round. He didn't need to win that race, but he still spun Kenseth. Logano at least had the argument that Kenseth was blocking him and was holding him up. He was to the bottom. It's a wishy-washy call. I'm mad about it still, but I can at least understand where Logano was coming from. Dillon, no excuse whatsoever. They were racing throughout the last stage, completely clean, had no issues. It was good, solid short track racing, which, by the way, the tire strategy and everything was a complete hit, and we're not even going to talk about it because of this garbage finish. But Logano, in his instances, he at least had a pretty good reason to be aggressive. And that's the best term you can use for Logano is aggressive. You know how bad it is for me after seeing that Kansas race in 2015 to see Logano completely furious about getting dumped and agreeing with him that it's egregious and not saying it's the pot calling the kettle black. He's right. There is no conceivable explanation for this in a normal motorsport, but this is exactly what the playoffs are after. We got to stop acting like a guy going from 32nd into the playoffs, which, by the way, he's locked in now because there's only 3 races left. At most, 3 new guys are going to win, so that would be 16 drivers. So Dillon is in the playoffs regardless of what happens. We got to stop acting like that's a good thing. If he's at 20th in points, if he's where Todd Gilliland, Josh Berry, Kyle Busch are, and he wins, okay, fine. He's at least running halfway decent. But the only 2 drivers that are full-time in the Cup Series that have run worse than Austin Dillon coming into this race are Zane Smith and Harrison Burton. And now, just look at these guys. John Hunter Nemechek, Daniel Hemrick, Justin Haley, Corey LaJoie, Eric Jones, Ryan Preece, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Carson Hocevar, Noah Gragson, Josh Berry, Mike McDowell, Todd Gilliland, Kyle Busch, Chase Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs, Martin Truex Jr. All those guys got leapfrogged by the series of moves on the last lap. If he would have won straight up, fine. It's still egregious, but you can't deny that he earned the win. Does he earn to have a chance to win a championship? Absolutely not. But this is what the series asked for. And I keep hearing people argue, oh, fine him, put him on probation, suspend him for a week. What is that going to do? What is it going to do? The series, the format only cares about winning. He has a win. Whatever happens, he's in the playoffs. The only way you make an example of this and say that this will not be tolerated, which, by the way, if I ever see this marketed as promotion or anything to try to get people to come to Richmond or be excited for probably the one Richmond race we get next year, better not happen. It better not happen. But the only way you make an example of this for this intentional wreck, call it what it is to take away the win, take away the playoff spot, and or make a change to the playoff format going forward. Is this what you want to sell? Do you want the playoff field to be determined by moves like that? Is that what you want the NASCAR Cup Series to be? Jim France, Ben Kennedy, anyone that has a voice in this sport going forward. Is that the product you want to sell? I really hope you answer correctly. That is absolutely egregious. It's an intentional wreck. What did you do with Bubba Wallace at Vegas for intentionally right-hooking Kyle Larson? What did you do at Charlotte for Chase Elliott intentionally right-hooking Denny Hamlin? This cannot be tolerated if you want people to take your championship seriously. People are already having a rough time with the playoffs. Ratings have gone down. The most deserving driver isn't winning the championship. You could just go through the list. Last year, you could argue William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., one of those guys was the best all year. You can't argue Ryan Blaney. 2022, it was Chase Elliott was the best driver all year long. Look at Racing Reference. Look up any stats you want. He was the guy all year long. Didn't win the championship. Logano was good. You can't argue he was the best. 2020, Kevin Harvick, that's it. 9 wins, 7.3 average finish, and he finished 5th in points. because of a format. This doesn't work. Racing, NASCAR was built on consistency. The best driver doesn't win every race. You're not going to win every race. It's not a stick and ball sport. It's not one guy against another. It's one guy versus 36 in this sport. It used to be 43. You win championships because you make the most out of every race and you're consistent in the ones you aren't good. You get the best finish you possibly can. That's why Benny Parsons won a championship with one win in 73. That's why Matt Kenseth won a championship in 2003 with only one win. This does not work. What more do you need to see? Do you need to see Ryan Newman going into the championship race with no wins and a chance at a championship? Do you need to see Matt Crafton in 2019 winning the championship in the Truck Series without a win? Do you have to see more of what we saw at Phoenix last year? Do you need to see more wreckfest of a finish of an otherwise pretty good, pretty clean race that makes you decide that this isn't worth it? What is the biggest gain to the playoff format? The ratings aren't good. The Game 7 moments are great because they're organic, because they're not manufactured. That was a manufactured finish. The Roval 2018 was a manufactured finish. The Hail Melon was a manufactured finish. Kenseth and Logano was a manufactured moment. All of these moments are not pure great racing, and that's just how it happened to go. It's because that's exactly what the format is after. Stop with the gaslighting. This format is creating so much, but what it's not doing is creating deserving champions. It's not creating good moments that we should be proud of. Is anyone proud of that besides Richard Childress? Is anybody who looks at that and says, that's a good sport, that's something I would want to watch next week? If you are, I mean, I'm happy to talk with you about much better finishes, much better races than that. It's got to stop. This sport is too good. Why do you think I'm here talking? I love this sport with everything I have. I can't endorse that. My buddies are texting me, asking me what's going on with that finish. The best example I can give them is if the Carolina Panthers made the playoffs last year because they won a week 14 game against the Falcons where they had a bounty on Bijan Robinson's knees. It's egregious. You try to compare yourself so much to other sports to try to compete with them, and then you have this. What's the comparison? You're telling me that this is something you want to sell? You're telling me that you're not a stick and ball sport. Stop acting like it. Have a regular full season format. Everyone hates F1. That if you don't love F1, you hate F1. I'm not an F1 fan, but you can't deny that they have a deserving champion every year. Say what you want about the races. Max Verstappen's going to win the championship, and he's the best driver. You don't have to question that. That should be a sure thing in this sport, and it's not. What more do you need to see? We're going to go into this for the rest of the year. I couldn't not make a video over that finish. The race overall was pretty good. I thought the dual tires worked. You could see it with Daniel Suarez. He all of a sudden became a contender to win the race. He won stage 2. I thought Christopher Bell once again had the best car and didn't have anything to show for it. You know, I was talking to my buddies. I had a feeling that this race was going to go bad for him because he was driving the DeWalt car. The last 2 races he drove the DeWalt car was St. Louis, where he had the race won. He had the best car, led 80 laps, and had the engine start to let go, battling Ryan Blaney for the win, and he finished 7th. And the other one was Nashville, where Bell dominated, led like 130-something laps, lost ground because he pit under caution, and some guy stayed out trying to make his ground back up, spins and wrecks, done for the day. Once again, the DeWalt car bit him. He led 120-something laps, I think, but sped on pit road for the 3rd straight Richmond race. It's really interesting to see. I was talking with some friends about this. I think Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, and Christopher Bell are 3 of maybe the 5 most talented drivers in the Cup Series, but the number of races that come back to bite them, that they're not able to close the deal on, that they should win but don't win, is staggering. We saw it all the time, especially with Larson at the Chip Ganassi ride in his first couple of years at Hendrick. Even though he was winning 10 races a year, it could have been more, and just small things continued to nip them in the butt. I don't know what it is with those three, other than the fact that they're dirt racers. I don't know why it seems to be guys like that. They have all the talent in the world. You see the success. Reddick's having a great year this year. He might win the regular season championship. Larson's a champion. He's got 4 wins this year. He came into this race in the points lead. I don't know if he still has it. Christopher Bell's made the championship 4 of the last 2 years. He's won 3 races this year. Reddick and Bell are going to be champions someday. Larson already is one, could very easily win it again. Just imagine what happens when all 3 of those guys figure out the many things. Larson's starting to do it. Just wait to see what happens when Reddick and Bell start to do it as well. It's really going to be interesting to see just how far they can go, just what kind of records they can set, how far up the win total they're going to get. But the future's definitely bright with those guys. But it's a frustrating day to be a NASCAR fan. I had to make a video. We're going to call it there. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any thoughts, I'd love to start a conversation about the playoff format, the race, anything. So thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.
This is the Harry Loomis Show.